Hey, what's up? It's Sunny from St. Rose Agency. Today we'll be having a fantastic conversation with our good friend, Ali AMAC McGuire. We are live in the pocket and we're here to have a great conversation. So Ali, if you would just start it off and just let us know a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sunny. Really happy to be here. Really happy to be doing this with you and this partnership. So a little about me. I mean, there are so many places you could start because as I've found out recently, I'm a whole lot more than just one thing. But we'll start with my career. So over the last 16 years, I've worked in the music industry as an audio engineer, mix engineer, vocal producer, songwriter. So basically, I do music.
Mhm.
I've been fortunate enough to obtain platinum and gold records. I've worked with artists like Fetty Wap, Post Malone, Kelly Rowland, Murda Beats, and I've worked with all of the major record labels, all of that really good stuff. I'm terrible at talking about myself, but I think that does it.
Yeah, those are really sick accolades, by the way. And it's really cool to see that you've been able to succeed in so many different facets of the creative industry. And it's cool to be around somebody like yourself who's, gone through some struggles within that space. And if you wouldn't mind just speaking on to some of the things you've experienced through your kind of like career within the industry.
For sure. So what else I should say is that over this 16 years, I've not only done studio work, but I've also worked as a live sound engineer.
Mhm.
I'm very proudly from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Hey, let's
You
go.
know
Philly in
what
the
I'm
house,
saying?
baby.
And when I was there, that's when I did the live sound where I came up on South Street at a place called the Legendary Dobbs. And then I ended up touring all over America and a few places in Europe. And then I came to LA about 8 years ago because it was really crazy. I actually never wanted to become a live sound engineer. It was just kind of like one day I ran out of all of my money and I actually got a job at a Jimmy John's because I wasn't going to have rent for the next month. But I went in the first day, I decided to quit anyway because I was like, this is bullshit.
Yeah, fuck Jimmy John's.
No, listen, I could do a whole podcast on why Jimmy John's was not a place for me to work from working there for about 4 hours. But
Damn.
yeah, no
Jimmy
hate
John,
to
we got
Jimmy
your- we
John's.
got
Though.
your
They're
number.
good
We got your
sandwich.
number, though.
I love Sprouts. Sprouts are great. But I decided I was going to figure out how to make my career music. And I got a job at a place called the Legendary Dobbs. And that just took off. It was really crazy. I got most of my first gigs actually from Craigslist. I
Oh, shit,
know
really?
that super ages me because now there's social media where you can find out a lot about these things. But I actually used to have just so many crazy jobs. I've had fake jobs for sure, because actually how I got into the music industry, sorry if this is going away from your question a little bit, but I would just talk to anybody who was willing to talk to me about the music industry. Like, because I didn't know anyone who did music professionally when I decided that I was going to do it. So I was just on Craigslist meeting up with anybody anywhere at like 20 years old, and it was so unsafe. You guys, please don't.
Yeah, don't do that. No.
Please don't just like go around meeting everybody anywhere on Craigslist. But it got me into working as a live sound engineer, and I did that for 6.5, 7 years. And I ended up getting on tour with Fetty Wap and Post Malone. And on that tour, I met a really good mentor of mine. And she was like, look, you just did one of the biggest tours of the year. And you really want to make records. And if you really want to make records, you got to go to LA. Nobody can take anything away from what you did. But I think it's time for you to go out to LA. So I came out here, and fortunately, I had such a good live sound resume that I got work out here pretty quickly. And then I got really fortunate that I actually got into a studio called Melrose Sound about 4 months in. And all of a sudden, I was a studio engineer. And actually, the first big session I ever had was Kelly Rowland, which is
Damn.
always like crazy to me. Like Kelly Rowland gave me half of her sandwich once, and that is still to this day one of the
Like peak
coolest
moments, you know what I mean? Like-
situations of my life. People always ask me what the sandwich was, and I'm like, I don't remember, but
It was delicious.
It slapped.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kelly. And I did that, and I ran around LA and worked at all of these major record labels and worked with all of these artists, and I achieved my dreams and I got the records, and then I just still wasn't happy. And people would, you know, be like, look at everything you have. I mean, look at this. Like, look at my studio. Like, it's incredible that I've built all of these things, and I don't take any of that for granted. But this really cool place that I love doesn't mean anything if I don't love myself, right?
100%. And it goes back to like what we were talking about, where it's like enjoying the process, you know what I mean? And really being aware of like the day-to-day moments and those little nuances of life that you learn to appreciate. And I feel like for a lot of people, we resonate with your story because, you know, a lot of people experience that kind of like environments where you feel like you're basically begging to sit at somebody else's table. And one of the mottos that I've used for myself in my life comes from that, where it's basically the longer analogy is, you know, never beg to sit at a table where you're not welcome. So I turned it on its head and I made it build tables and eat with your friends then. You know what I mean? Because for us as creative entrepreneurs, we have all the power to create these tables and to create opportunities like this where we conversate amongst people where we feel like-minded and we feel like, you know, we have a shared experience. And I think that like conversations like these are so powerful because we speak a lot of the truths and a lot of the things that we've dealt with and can understand it on a more emotional and a logical level and understand why we do some of the things that we do. So for you, have you felt like you've ever been in a space where like, you know, it was kind of like toxic, or it felt like, you know, you weren't really being appreciative to the full extent to the effort that you were providing?
Yes.
Is there anything in like particular or like an example of that?
No, yeah, I was just that was for dramatic
No, I feel you.
effect. You know, yeah, I mean there are literally so many examples, and I love that you talk about, you know, building your own tables, because especially I think in the entertainment industry, and of course like that's where my experience comes from, there's so many narratives of that you have to go through this toxic stuff and you have to deal with it and you have to just like take these hits, and you know, it's so, what's the word I'm looking for, like, you know, you're getting up and you're bleeding out, but you're still going, you know what I mean? Everyone's like, hell yeah, you know, die on that hill, you know.
But you're bleeding out.
But you're bleeding out and you need to take care of yourself. But you know, the point is you can build these spaces. There are spaces where you can succeed and not have to bleed out and die, you know, and not have to not take care of yourself and not have to deal with people who are telling you that you're not shit, when, especially as an audio engineer, people are telling me I'm not shit and nobody else in the room knows how to plug anything in.
Exactly.
But you know, that's besides the point of, you know, yeah, why are you in these toxic situations? So yeah, I've been in a lot of toxic situations, and yeah, I could go into the details of what those are about, but they're the stories that you've heard before. They're not stories that you don't understand, right?
100%.
But why was I in those situations is really the question. So it's really exciting. We're talking about, you know, my music career and how I've been a live sound engineer and I've been a studio engineer. And now I'm moving into this third, I don't want to call it my third act because that makes it feel like it's like the end of my life, right?
Yeah.
But I'm moving into this third stage of my career, of my life, of doing more creative things, because what I'm doing is creative. And it starts with this inner compass that I created. So what an inner compass, or what the inner compass consists of is your values, which is who you are at your core, your whys broken down into your ego whys and your purpose whys, which is your motivations behind your whats, and your what is what you're doing, and then how you want to do all of those things. So why am I in these toxic situations? Because I'm trying to search for validation. Because I stay in this situation because I think this is a good situation for me to get the success that I desire. And once I get the success that I desire, then I can start living. And then I can be happy. And then I can find myself in better situations. But why don't I just choose that first? Because what does the outcome matter if the experience isn't any good?
100%.
You know, and like, let's break down the compass a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for my values, I learned from Brene Brown that it's best to make your core values into your top 2, right? So, and that's so you can just remember what your values are all the time. If you just have 10 values, you're like, what's that? What's the ninth
10?
one? One. But my core values are authenticity and growth. And in my inner compass, I have secondary values that go underneath that. And so what you do, there's like a list of 100 values, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you choose between 15 and 20. You don't choose more than 20. You're going to want to. You're going to be like, I like all of these things. But it causes you to like really look at yourself, right? And what do I really value? And then once you have those top 20, you see which 2 feel like they're in the lead. So for me, authenticity and growth, like that's who I am. I want to be authentically myself everywhere that I show up, and in every situation, I want to grow, right? And underneath authenticity is compassion and community, and underneath growth is patience and a bunch of other stuff that I can't currently remember right now. But these are my secondary values, support my 2 core values, because we all need support, right?
100%. We need that foundation.
100%. So when Brene Brown describes this, and literally everybody should read everything Brene Brown has ever written, it comes with a lot of research and such great insight. I'm so thankful for that work. But how she talks about core values is that you find them so when you walk into a room, you're never alone because your values are with you, right? And so I started, like after I burned out, I started to write how to navigate the music industry with your core values. And I wrote this whole thing, and then I realized that I had never broken my core values of authenticity and growth. I always went into places as authentic as I could be, and I was always growing in all of these situations. So then why was I still in all these messed up situations? So for me, the values weren't enough. I had to dive a little deeper, and I got into my whys, and then I broke them down into my purpose and my ego whys. And I already talked about validation a bit, but my ego whys are proving people wrong and searching for validation and success. And my purpose whys are joy and impact. So let me give you a little story real quick of how I came up with joy and impact. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Hardball with Keanu Reeves.
Oh, yes. I love that movie.
Okay.
The ending is so sad.
Listen.
So sad.
Gee, baby. But in this movie, I'm so thankful that you actually know.
No, 100%. I was like, one of my favorite movies. It's oh my God.
It's
Dude,
a
that ending is
really
so
good
sad.
movie.
It's really good though.
And in this movie, the pitcher, he can't pitch unless he's listening to Big Papa by the Notorious B.I.G., right? And that was when I was really introduced to Biggie. And it was just like, my life just changed in that moment. I ran home from my friend's house because it was right down the street. And I downloaded every Notorious B.I.G. song that I could find. I was changed. And it's crazy because, you know, like Biggie definitely never thought he was making music for this 9-year-old white girl.
Yeah.
But he was, in fact. And just the impact that had on me, that it helped me like understand myself and the joy that it brought to me. And, Biggie's music has always been at play in my life.
Mhm.
Like, even when I did my first speech, for example, Juicy was playing in this random cafe at Stanford.
Damn. What are the odds?
Yeah, but it was just like, oh, hey, you got this. Don't worry. But so I wanted to make music to create the kind of impact and joy that Biggie brought to me, right? So now you got your ego and your purpose wise. So the reason you need these, right, is because your values, as much as they are who you are, they can still lead you down some roads that don't line up with your purpose and line up with our ego, which is really just our insecurities and our fears from life. And so I'm in all of these situations because I'm searching for validation. I'm thinking if I get successful enough, then I will be worth something. I will be lovable. But I'm also searching for the validation that I'm not shit. I keep going into situations because I don't think I'm shit. So of course I'd be somewhere where somebody was like yelling at me all the time and not treating me right and not paying me and acting like I'm not their entire sound. But let me not get into all of that. And then you have your what. So in this case, my what is a career as an audio engineer, but everything is a what. So even this interview we're in right now is a what. And why are we here? Are we here for our ego? Are we here for our purpose? Does this align with our values? And then we have our hows, which is how we want to do it. So how do we want to show up? How do we want to be here? How do we want to think, act, and feel around each other in this situation as we collaborate with each other? And this is a long story to say that this is how you build your inner compass. This is how you become aware, accountable, and curious, which are the 3 pillars of the inner compass and how it works the most. Because I didn't know all of those things about myself, but my inner compass was still working inside of me.
Yeah, like subconsciously, you were kind of just still going down this path. You didn't even know this was the path you were on.
Right. I wasn't consciously making these decisions. Like, when we're growing up, all of these things happen to us. And, if we're not necessarily taught what's going on in the world, and it's hard because maybe our parents didn't understand it either. We have all of these coping and survival mechanisms, that make up for, maybe why we're not getting our needs met and all of this stuff. And they create these stories in our heads. And then we just run the cycles and run the cycles and run the cycles unaware. But I'm sure everybody can see in their life how they've run a cycle more than once, more than twice, more than 3 times. Like, why do I keep inviting this person into my life? Why do I keep finding myself in all of these situations where people are just using me?
100%. And some of those cycles are generational. You know what I mean? They come from our own upbringing as children. And I think what's beautiful about your compass is that like you really get to address that part of yourself, because I feel like a lot of artists come from some type of background of trauma in some type of extent. And it's something that for like I use in my life to really kind of like invoke the same passion back into just living life, because it's like it's all a part of the same process. It's all within the same vein. And going back to what you were saying, it's just kind of like enjoying the now and really finding purpose in what you're doing to help yourself grow. And I feel like a lot of people, pour into other things, other people, but at the end of the day, as just human beings, we need to take the time to pour into ourselves sometimes and think about our own aspirations and goals. And that's what I love about your teachings, is that you really get a sense of like who you are in yourself, you know what I mean? And you put the self-worth back into your own hands. And I feel like for a lot of artists is like, we only get validation from the fact that like we've created something and the universe fucks with it, whether it's your client, whether it's your audience, your fan base. Like that's how we get our validation, because it's like everything we do is so purely from ourselves and within your divine nature. Like when you're an artist, you really create from within yourself. You know what I mean? It's nobody else can tell you how to do you. If you're really about it, you're just going to create. And going back to your background, it's like I can see that so much in yourself too, because like one of the things for me, it's like music has always been intrinsically tied to my life. Like when I edit, I'm listening to music. When I make an edit, it's to music. And it's one of those things where it's like, people who really love music will at some point try to make it. You know what I mean? Some people who really love art will go ahead and try to make it because you understand what it's like to be an artist. You know what I mean? So your journey is just so inspirational because you've always had this innate love for music, and every aspect of what you do. And from what you've told us, I can just see music playing such a big part of every, part of that, especially with like the Biggie thing, because that to somebody is like a nuance, but for you, it was almost like an everything kind of thing. Like it connected the dots. And then to have that same circumstance at Stanford, it's like, dude, that's a sign from the universe. You know what I mean? And it's the fact that it was fucking Biggie is incredible. You know what I mean? Even if it was just like a happenstance, like coincidence, whatever.
It was not.
It wasn't. You know what I mean? For you, you resonated with that because you're like, dude, this is so tied to who I am as an artist. And I feel like that's why conversations like this are so powerful, because we speak a lot of the truth behind the nuance of just being a creative. You know what I mean? We are so appreciative of the art that we produce, the art that we digest and we see, and we can appreciate it from such a pure level and understanding. Because at the end of the day, whatever art you're viewing, it took somebody had to take the time to make it for you to appreciate it. You know what I mean? And that's why I love conversations with artists like yourselves, because we get a great sense of like what transpired to make you this immaculate person. You know what I mean? So it's dope, you know what I mean? But like that's really sick. I feel like what you're doing here is amazing. You know what I mean? So thank you for like putting something like this together, because I feel like it really does give you a beautiful kind of like roadmap for yourself. You know what I mean? To really work with yourself and meet you where you're at. You know what I mean? And say, hey, I may not be in the spot that I want to be, but let me enjoy this journey in the process of working with myself, because it's not about what we've been talking about. It's not about achieving the highest of highs, because even that sometimes can feel unfulfilling. You know what I mean? It's really just about enjoying the process and just having conversations with people who really get it. And I think that's what's the beauty about being creative, is that like our conversations are so powerful. You know what I mean? We can speak about anything, and the truth that we put into it gives the words the power that we speak. So thank you for like sharing your background and everything, because it's truly inspiring. And I feel like I resonate with a lot of the same experiences that you've had, because like we're all victims of children of trauma. You know what I mean? We've all are trying to break these generational curses and cycles that will continue to persist until we kind of like say, hey, I've had enough of this. I want to stop seeking validation from other people and just affirm with myself that I'm worth it and that I'm valued. You know what I mean? So this kind of knowledge is so beautiful. And thank you so much for just sharing this workbook and your life experiences. I feel like, for the listeners that are out there, like I hope you are able to just resonate with the things that we're saying, because it's so tied to being an artist, especially in today's industry. Like we're always going to have to deal with people that are like this, that don't honestly just don't appreciate what we're willing to give. And for people like yourself, it's like, hey, we need to build tables where we can be amongst people who understand us. So I'm very appreciative of having this table between us and having conversations like this, because I feel like we can really change the world and inspire people.
For sure. And thank you. I receive all of that. And the thing is, we are all creative. All humans are creative. All of us are creating our lives
100%.
every day. And we are choosing how we create them, whether that's based off of things you're unaware of or not. And for me, like actually, I want to touch on something really quick, because we're talking about, artists and the validation from other people and things, right? Because if we're looking for validation from other people, we're never going to feel validated.
100%.
Right? Because the validation comes from ourselves. When other people love our art, if we don't have validation within ourselves, we're using that to get through our wounds, right? But if we have validation within ourselves, when people appreciate our art, we get to receive their love. It's not about validation. It's about receiving and connecting. Like receiving and serving and back and forth, right? Because those people, by appreciating our work, are serving us, and our work is serving them. And it's all about love and connection. Like, and when I'm talking about the inner compass, so the umbrella of everything I'm doing is called the Amaculent Mindset. And I didn't mention that my artist name is actually Amaculent. You know, I'm Allie, I'm AMAC, I'm Amaculent, I'm Mac, I'm A. It's a lot of stuff. But the Amaculent Mindset is just, I just want to show you guys how I've helped myself love myself and show you that you can do it too. And when you watch me, know you can have your own experience. The Amaculent experience is just my experience to share with you. You know, being immaculate is about being perfectly imperfect. That's the definition of it. And how I actually came up with that is kind of a funny story. So I'm AMAC, right? Allie McGuire makes AMAC. And then I came up with Amaculent. And I spell it AMACULENT. And when I first started out, I would put it on the internet. And it's funny because it doesn't really happen anymore. But in the beginning, so many people would reach out to me, email me, and tell me, that's not how you spell immaculate. Like, no one's ever going to hire you or ever take you seriously in your life. And I'm like, bro, this is hip hop.
Yeah.
I don't know what you mean. But also, like, what? And I just realized, like, yeah, that made this name perfectly imperfect. Like the same as the definition of immaculate, but different, if that makes sense.
And I like it because, like, it's not spelled correctly, but it's like, it's you though. It's imperfectly, you know what I mean? And it plays into it. So like, and it's cool, as I had a conversation, and when we brought that up too, I thought about it as well. And I was like, yeah, but like, it's so tied to you and your brand. Like, if you get it, you get it. And if you don't, you don't, kind of thing. And I think that, like, what gives your name more power was, like, you were like, fuck it. Like, you guys don't get it, but like, it's still a part of me and I'm going to run with this because I know what this means to me. And it's like that personal brand sticks out so much because it's like, when I hear Immaculate, I know exactly what you're talking about. You know what I mean? And it's like being perfectly imperfect and just accepting for you for who you are, kind of thing, and continue to work with yourself. So yeah, I just think it's funny that people are like hitting you up about that, because I'm like, dude, at the end of the day, it's like, it's your name. You know what I mean? Like, nobody else is telling these people to be like, hey, you got to run with this. You know what I mean? So it's like, right? You know, to each their own.
And like, also, why are you mad, bro?
Yeah.
You know,
grammar police.
Right. And you know, in my whole life, like, I've always just wanted to be myself, and I think that's all any of us want.
Yeah.
Right? We just want to be ourselves. And I just want to show everyone that you can, and you can take care of yourself. Like, and you can enjoy your life. You can enjoy the dark and the light of it all, because how amazing is it that we get to feel any of this? And I didn't always feel that way in my life. It's insane. Like, it is insane how much I enjoy my life. Seriously, like, I never thought I could feel this way. I never thought, like, that I could love myself so much. And it's still a struggle. I still have insecurities. I'm like, oh, please still like me. Like, if I get a little angry one day, you know, don't, please. Like, but then it's like, but now I get to witness this with my inner compass, right? Because all of this you can run through the inner compass of being aware of myself and say, I could say, hey, Allie, I see you. I love you though, even if they don't. It's okay.
And you got to be there for yourself. And I feel like that's a lot of what a lot of people don't do nowadays, is really just be there for you. You know what I mean? And give yourself the time and authenticity to like experience your emotions. Because if I could take a second and talk about just some personal experiences, sure. I've had people in my life that, like, I've supported them from like day one, and without naming names, like, I have a friend who like stopped music entirely. And I was like, bro, like, whatever you need to do to make this happen, like, let's set up this, let's set up that. And, you know, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. And a lot of the insecurity was coming from the fact that, like, this person was doing everything for everybody else. They were helping them out with like a label, getting them on their own independent stuff. And they were just being ostracized by the people that they were trying to help. And they felt like, you know, they were being undervalued. And I was like, bro, you're pouring into the wrong people when you should be pouring into yourself. You as an artist are amazing. And for a lot of people in my life who are like leaders, it's like, hey, sometimes you got to realize that like you're not Superman. You're not going to be able to save the world. And some people don't want to be saved no matter how much time and effort you pour into them. Sometimes you got to realize you got to call a spade, and you got to realize that like, hey, as much time and effort that I'm pouring into this person, I could equally be pouring it into myself and my own pursuits. And sometimes you got to level yourself up to go back and save somebody else. You know what I mean? It's like when a plane is like, when a plane hits turbulence and the mask come down, the first thing they say is put the mask on yourself first before you go put it on anybody else, because you got to make sure you're good before you try to save the world. You know what I mean? And I say that to say that like, going back to the compass, it's really about understanding your whys. Like, are you trying to save everybody for your own sake of your ego, to like make yourself feel important and make yourself that like you have the answer to everything? And for a lot of people, we don't have the answers, and that's life. And that's what makes life so amazing, is that it's an enigma. It's a constant journey. Every day we wake up, it's a new challenge, it's new adversity. But realistically, it's about getting back up after you've fallen. You know what I mean? And I feel like with this inner compass, it really helps you understand that journey and appreciate every step that you've taken. Because I feel like for a lot of artists, we experience a lot of success, and it's no longer fulfilling because we're not tracking anymore how far we've walked. We're so worried about getting to the end that we didn't realize that, dude, you've crossed several mountains just to get to this top. You know what I mean? Just to get to this peak of success. And you're here now, and it's unfulfilling because you've never taken the time to enjoy the walk and the process getting there. It's just been like, oh, I got to do this, I got to get it done. But it's like, dude, just take some time to breathe and just like be like, wow, I get to do something creative for a living every single day. And it's so hard in today's day and age to be appreciative of that sometimes. I feel like we have so many pressures as artists. You know what I mean? Like, life's going to hit you no matter if you're making content or not. You know what I mean? If you take a break, you still got bills. You know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of people, especially in the creative industry, we're stuck in survival mode. You know what I mean? So to take the time to kind of like work on ourselves and to be there for ourselves feels like a challenge in itself, because it's like, damn, where do I make the time to do that? You know what I mean? When you feel like the whole world is against you.
For sure. And that's super real, and that's super hard. And even if it is 10 minutes a day where you are taking time to, hang out with yourself, period. See what's going on. Because look, there's only one destination. We only have one destination when we're alive. The rest of it is the journey. The rest of it is the experience. We are here to experience things, whatever that is. You don't have to be a music artist for the rest of your life. You can be, if that's the whole experience that you want to have. But just like for me, right? Like, live sound engineer in the studio. And that seems like the same thing. But now motivational speaking, I guess self-help, now we haven't talked about it, but and now with the music that I'm making, like, this is the experience I want to have. Like, I went from being behind the boards all of this time to now I'm stepping out in the front, and with the inner compass, with the music, like, now I'm expressing my experiences for everyone to see what mine was and see that they can have their own. And it's incredible to be here. I can't even tell you like how scared I've been of speaking in public for my whole life up until a year and a half ago. And you've seen me speak.
And you're killing it. Like, you are natural on stage. Like, you could have told me that you've been doing this for years and I would have believed you. You know what I mean? Because the way that you present yourself, your energy, like, and you're so thoughtful with your process and the way that you present it, and you've done so much hard work to like make it palatable to people. Because I feel like a lot of people have very grandiose ideas. They have concepts of ideas sometimes, but I feel like with you, you really have like the implementation and like the timeline to really sit down with yourself and say, hey, this is feasible. I can do this. I can really take the time to work with myself and apply this in a way that's going to be positive and impactful into my life. Because I feel like a lot of people just do things for the sake of survival. And at this point in a lot of people's lives, I feel like instead of trying to just survive, you got to learn how to live. You know what I mean? And you have to learn how to like appreciate every nuance when it comes to life, because like we were talking about earlier and discussing it, life is always going to try to knock you down. You know what I mean? That's the that's the one thing we all have in common with life. Life is not always going to be fair. It's not always going to be nice, but it's really about being able to use this inner compass to really figure out, how do I get to this higher sense of purpose? How do I work with myself to invent myself out of the box that I'm in right now? You know what I mean? How do I take these tools and really apply them into my own life to really seek this self-worth and regain the sense of validation, not from other people, but through my own actions and my own efforts. You know what I mean? So that's what I love about what we're talking about today, is that it's so intrinsically tied to the human condition and the lived experiences that we've all shared. And I think that's why what you're doing is so powerful, is because in any shape or form, it resonates. You know what I mean? And it's something that can be applied to creatives, non-creatives, whoever. You know what I mean? I feel like this compass is something, whether you realize it or not, we're all using in our day to day. And it's just about, acknowledging the fact that like we're on these paths and we have these tools at our disposal. And are we using them in the right kind of implementation?
Absolutely. And I want to reframe some of the words you said,
Mhm.
because you said life is always going to
Try to knock you down.
try to knock you down, right? Life is always going to give you a challenge
100%.
to ascend, because all of these things, right? The good, the bad, we talked about it, like they're all part of the experience. And I've had this thought recently, and I don't know that I thought it all the way through, but I'm gonna say it anyway, because we're talk about healing a lot, right? Because and this process is me healing my wounds and these things and just becoming aware. Survival is so instinctual. We don't think about it. When you become conscious of what's happening with you, now we're just living life. Like, I had a tough few days recently, and I love to post about when I'm having a tough time. I just love to be real and let people know what I'm going through. And a lot of the times, some of the responses, are, oh, don't feel this way, don't da 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 da. And everyone's coming from a good place. So I appreciate the love, but it's just living. We heal to live and to go through the stuff. I guess, yeah, I'm still healing myself, but I'm just allowing what's happening to happen instead of fighting it and seeing what I can learn from it. And that's when I'm at the most elevated emotions and when I'm at the lowest vibrational emotions. Like, what's going on in there, Allie? How can I help you? How can I help you? Like, and that's what the inner compass is about. It's what the music is about, right? It's called On One the Experience. I know we didn't touch on it a whole lot, but all of this, again, it's the experience. We're just here on a journey to have an experience with ourselves. So that's my thought.
No, and I feel you. And to piggyback off of that, one of these, kind of affirmations and mottos that really stuck out to me, and I feel like it's very relevant to what you're speaking on, is like, you can't control the wind, but you can adjust your sails. You know what I mean? And life is the wind. You're never going to be in control of life. Life is always going to throw different challenges your way that are going to help you kind of succeed and kind of like help you, you know, see what's going on in your own life and how to you apply. But at the end of the day, it's all about adjusting yourselves and saying, hey, the wind may be hitting me from the north and I'm trying to go south, but yo, I'm gonna make it work no matter what. You know what I mean? I'm gonna use my skills and my gifts to my ability to really help elevate not only myself but my community. And I think that like going back to the inner compass, it's like the impact for the community is amazing because it goes back to healing. And I think there's a lot of healing that needs to be done in numerous different communities by numerous different people because we're all kind of like children of trauma. You know what I mean? It's not everybody has the fortunate with having, some people aren't even fortunate enough to have both of their parents in their life sometimes. You know what I mean? And it's one of these things is as we grow up and we get older, and especially with like my own parents, like my parents had me when they're like, my mom was 20. So for a long time, I just felt like I wasn't getting adequate love and attention from my parents. And then I got old and I realized I was like, damn, we were growing up together. At the same time I was growing up, they were growing up and learning how to be parents, how to be adults, and how to like manage certain things. So I can't fault them for not being the best at it out the gate. You know what I mean? But I'm appreciative that my parents were at least able to take these lessons and apply them to my siblings, because I wouldn't want them to go through the same things that I had to go through. You know what I mean? And it would be selfish for me to be like, well, you have to go through this because I went through this. That's not fair. You know what I mean? The things that I had to suffer through, and I don't even want to like using the word suffer, because without having gone through these things, it wouldn't have shaped me into the person I am today. So even though that I've had these traumatic experiences, I think that like with the light in myself and going back to my alter ego Sunny, it's like Sunny to me is like being the light in my own life. So that way that I can take this gift and bring out the inner light in other people that I'm around and let these people shine as well too, because that's what being Sunny is to me. It's not about being the GOAT, about being the best. It's about being somebody that's there to help. You know what I mean? And I think that what I appreciate about this inner compass and what inspired me was to think about how I could be a better leader. What are the reasons that why I want to lead? And going back to like our conversation about the levels deep, and I'll just make it brief and about speaking about this, but like when we spoke about it, one of my main reasons was like, you know, my father's sacrifice and inheriting a small fortune and taking this last bit of like basically, I would say, financial allowance for my father. Like this is the last gift my dad was ever going to get me, this sum of money. And I realized that like I was literally holding my father's sacrifice and like blood money, like a weight of gold, and every dollar mattered. The way that I spent that, I spent that money like I knew I was never going to get it again. And that put me down the path of like financial literacy, starting my own company, and really starting to build a table for which I could eat with my friends at, because I was like you in the same position where it's like highly successful off the jump, and I was around a lot of people. And what I realized was like, hey, like these people are just really dope at what they do, and they've had friends in the industry that like help support them and put them in positions to win. And it's like, hey, I'm in these exact same positions now. So rather than gatekeep these opportunities, why not spread the love? Like if I really think I'm the GOAT and I'm dope at what I do, I'm not worried about any Tom, Dick, and Harry that comes into the scene. Like, bro, I want the competition. I want to have this ability to like challenge myself and kind of like, you know, because for me, it's like, it's not even about being the best. The being competitive is so corny in today's day and age. You know what I mean? Like the best at what? The best at, you know, whatever you do is cool, but like, can you teach? Can you provide the same knowledge to your community? Can you give back with what you're doing? Because if it's all self-serving, that's fine and dandy. But for me, with my inner compass, it's like going beyond that and pushing myself to really give back and have conversations like this with another artist and creative, where it's like, wow, this is powerful. Like just us speaking about these truths and our life experiences, the amount of inspiration and knowledge that we've been able to share in just this one conversation is so powerful. So rather than kind of like hoarding this knowledge to ourselves, by spreading it around and letting people know that you're not alone, like it just makes what we do so much more feasible, because it's like, hey, I'm not the only one out here trying to live my dream. There's so many other people on the same journey as me. And rather than trying to compete with them, why not equally help make them their dreams happen? Because my whole thing is like the analogy of the sword and the stone. You know what I mean? Like I am the sword, you know, with my knowledge, and by teaching other people, I'm sharpening my skills. You know what I mean? But at the same time, vice versa, I'm the stone for you and I'm sharpening your sword. So that way you're more skillful and precise with the way that you approach your creative career in your career development. So I think what we're talking about today just goes hand in hand with like the creative process and just enjoying what we do again. You know what I mean? And that's what I feel like the biggest takeaway from the workshop is or the workbook is really finding the joy in life. You know what I mean? In every aspect of it, the good and the bad and the ugly, we have to appreciate it, because it's what makes life. You know what I mean? Like if everything was always good all the time, what happens when you do have that low? You're going to be so low and you're like, what the fuck? Like I've never been here before. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel so lost, because you've never had these adversities. And it's when you experience these true kind of like tribulations that you realize like, damn, bro, like I'm powerful. Like the world may offer me these challenges, but it's how I interact with them and the power that I give to these challenges that dictate my trajectory. And the last thing I'll say, and this is a huge shout out to Brandon from the Creative Collective seminar. One of the things that he said that really stuck with me was like, your attitude is your altitude. And that really resonated with me because I was like, wow, like it's perspective. It's really about how you address the situations around you. Are you in control of your emotions? Are you letting your ego lead your purpose? Or do you have a bigger reason why you're doing the things that you're doing? Is it self-validation or is it coming from self-worth and self-love? You know what I mean? And these are the types of conversations we need to be having as creatives because we do things so intrinsically from ourselves and from like our own divine nature. And at the end of the day, you got to love yourself and you got to be willing to meet yourself where you are and say, hey, I'm still growing. But, you know, it's all about that 1%. As long as you give 1% more than the day prior, you're always going to be making a stride in the right direction.
Absolutely. You know, and it's important to understand that we're not ever going to just like get rid of our ego. It's always going to be a part of us.
100%.
So, you know, the main missions of what I'm doing right now is that you know that you're okay even when you're not okay, to love yourself all your ways and to enjoy your life in all the ways that it is. You can't deny your ego because then you're denying a part of yourself. You got to love that bitch.
100%. You got to love every aspect of you.
And that's crazy. You know, you've got to love the stuff about you that you don't really like because you loving it heals it. You know, talked about a lot of stuff here. I think, you know, we were talking about building the table, working with your community. One of the ways the Inner Compass is so impactful because we do have goals of, you know, how large we might want to build something. And, you know, we're going to need investors. We're going to need team members. You know, we're going to need partnerships like we have right now. You know, if we both know our inner compass, especially in the way that I've done it, we're going to see our values line up. We're going to see our purposes line up. We're going to be able to see each other's egos. Like we're literally having, you know, these conversations and you know what my ego whys are and we're going to do this and I'm going to know what yours are. So I can recognize when you're in your ego and I could say, okay, I see that's happening. We'll come back to the table. You know, we'll know why we're working together. And then you're going to be like, oh, this person does not have the same values that I have. And this person is super in ego and wildly unaware that they are. Or they're aware and that's how they want to be. But I understand that this doesn't align with me. It's about finding the paths that align with you, the life that aligns with you, the balance that aligns with you, the people that align with you. So you can enjoy your whole life. It's not just about your career. So many of us get so caught up in our career as our identity. And one of the hardest things for me was ripping my identity away from being platinum award winning AMAC McGuire and finding value in just myself, me being here, even like not without the inner compass. You know, I hold value just by being me. And our inner compasses allow us to connect with the right people, the people who value me for Allie and you for Wykin.
100%. And I'm glad you said that because I've honestly, going back to like Sunny being my alter ego, like I'll make a quick story. I was at an event and this is the first time like I've ever been to an event. Like did a campaign for the Milk Room, shout out the Milk Room. And we were invited to like an Emmys after party. And this is the first time that I've ever been like asked to like come to an event to just be me. And I didn't have my camera. And I'm just chilling there with my date. And I'm the entire time I'm just thinking like, fuck, if I had my camera right now, I could easily get us backstage. I could easily get us there. I could easily get us this. And I was sitting there, I'm thinking to myself, and I was like, damn, why am I not cool with just like, just being here and just being a part of this? Like I felt like my superpower is my camera. Like it's just something where it's like, if I have a camera in my hand, I know that I can do anything. Like I can walk into any room, sell myself, be like, yo, I got a creative agency. I do this, I do that. But without the camera, I almost feel naked. I was like, fuck, like I'm not this, they don't know. It's like that meme where it's like the guy in the corner is like, they don't know that I'm actually a dope videographer. You know what I mean? Like I'm just a normal dude. And I'm like, come on. Like, but it goes back to that serving my ego. Having the camera in my hand serves my ego because I'm important.
Validation.
Exactly. You see that camera around you, low, you're like, oh, this guy, he's really about it. He's invested into himself. But that really does nothing for me besides putting me around people who know they can use me for some type of capacity. But it's like, are you trying to use me or are you trying to work with me? And there's a difference. And with partnerships like this, it's like we're working with each other every step of the way. You know what I mean? We're going to hold each other accountable. We're going to know what our egos are. So that way we can be like, hey, you're in the wrong pocket right now. Like, we're not doing this for the right reason. You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things where it's like, it's so good to have that because you get to track with like people like, hey, do we really align on this? And if you don't, be honest about that. You know what I mean? It's like any type of relationship. You know what I mean? You have to be really upfront with like why you're here and what you hope to achieve. And I think with what we're trying to achieve is really like inspiring the community and showcasing to people that like, hey, there's options out there. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to just sit with yourself and be in this terrible mood. Like, you can better yourself. There's mental things you can do for your mental health that really help you figure out and navigate whatever trials and tribulations you're facing. You know what I mean? And for me, especially hearing your story, it's like, wow, like we are not alone. You know what I mean? Like as much as we would like to tell ourselves that like nobody else can relate, nobody else is experiencing what I've experienced, like I think that like this conversation just showcases the beauty of like pain because it sucks to go through these things. But when you have somebody who can resonate with your experience and has gone through something similar, you get that breath of fresh air. It's like, fuck, like it sucked that I went through it, but like at least I know that it like somebody relates, somebody gets what I've been through. And I hope that like for the people listening, you know, you take a lot of what we said to heart and really just think about, you know what I mean? Like, what do you want to do? And what really serves you? You know what I mean? And your whys, your wants, your egos, and your purposes. And, you know, I highly implore everybody to just check out the Inner Compass. The Amaculent Mindset is absolutely amazing. And I have nothing but good energy and positivity to preach about this because as somebody who's fortunate enough to actually go through the teaching and sit through a seminar where Ali absolutely crushed it, like just came in and for like it was just so much information that was just so digestible, was so easy to understand and follow through. And by the end of it, I was just so inspired because I realized I was like, wow, like to an extent, we are kind of holding ourselves back. You know what I mean? And it's about utilizing just our awareness and just being like, hey, like there's opportunities around me all the time. You know what I mean? And I think that this really brings to the forefront that like this healing process is something that like it's not going to happen overnight, but it's a journey with yourself. And I think that it's a journey that a lot of people need to take the time to walk through. You know what I mean? So in regards to just the workshop and what you have going on, I would just say from like my perspective, it's absolutely amazing the work and dedication you've put in. And I am completely honored by this partnership because I feel like what you're aiming to do and what you're trying to achieve, like this is something where we can change the world for better and really allow people to heal and really be okay with who they are in the current state because nobody's perfect. And I think that chasing perfection is futile. You know what I mean? Like you only get so many hours within your life. You know what I mean? Are you really going to spend every single hour of the day hating yourself and who you are? Or are you going to take the time to be like, hey, I may not be where I want to be, but there's nothing stopping me from getting there. And it's all about just getting up and taking those actions.
Absolutely. And I'll wrap this up by saying I love the story you said about being at the concert, right? Because the thing I say to close out the speech that you heard is once you build your inner compass, you'll never walk into a room alone because you'll have your best friend and it will be you.
I appreciate that. Yeah, that's
Go ahead.
no, sorry. I just resonated with that so much because like, yes, everything you're saying is right. Sorry.
No, it's okay. That's maybe one of the best lines I've ever written in my life. So I understand.
Ali got bars. You know what I'm saying?
Trust me, y'all don't even know I got bars. But you know, like, so you being in that situation and having the inner compass like with you when you know it and you're there and then you can be like, oh, this is my ego. Why am I really here? Oh, okay, let me adjust. This isn't actually how I want to show up here. I don't need to be in my insecurities like at all. And you get to just have that and witness yourself. And then you can, you know, look back on it later and see like what that stuff was really about. Understand your whys deeper, understand your values deeper, all of this stuff. Like, I think it's incredible. I'm so excited to be doing this with you for so many reasons, but also to see how implementing the inner compass like inside of our partnership, right? Because we're at the beginning. We have a lot of conversations to have.
100%.
We have a lot of things to build, and like being in a place where we're already open to like, hey, I want like I'm going to be vulnerable with you. I'm going to tell you what's up so we can communicate, right? And you can't communicate appropriately if you aren't aware of yourself, because you don't always even know where that is coming from. It's so important for us to set up our boundaries with each other, what we need from each other, for you to be able to see like, and me to be able to see in you that you're having a hard day or I'm having a hard day, and it's not about either of us, and it's okay.
100%.
And it doesn't change where we're at with each other. It means we allow that to happen, and then we're going to come have a conversation about what went on, you know, and then we're just going to understand our inner compasses deeper. We're going to understand our communication styles deeper, and we're only going to grow as friends, you know, and partners. And it's just a beautiful thing. Like, it's a beautiful thing. I am blown away every day that I was chosen to have this idea and be the vessel for it.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea.
And it's like, I almost like want to cry right now. It makes me so emotional because, you know, I've already said it. Like, I can't believe I'm here. And it's so exciting that like I'm going to be able to go even deeper. And, you know, we talked a lot about, you know, like filling up your cup and stuff, and everything I do. Like, in this conversation, right? Like, I'm taken care of. Like, I'm doing this for me and for us, and like vice versa. And like, I can just like feel that energy, and it's such a beautiful thing. I used to want to be there and help people so much because I didn't want them to feel the pain that I felt in my life. But now I want to share this story and this work because I want you to feel how I feel. I want you to feel how I feel because it's fucking incredible. Like, it's just so incredible. And I don't need to save you from yourself. You can save you. And you have to save you.
And that's what's beautiful about this, is that like it really does come down to you. And to sum it up, and one last quote from me is like, just thinking about what you're saying right now is like thug life. You know, the hate you give little infants fucks everyone. You know what I mean? So with this, it's like the opposite. It's like the love you give. You know what I mean? It's about putting love into more of your actions, and about being more aware of how you're interacting with the world around you. Are you letting these outside factors take all your power away and making you feel some type of way, when realistically, adjust yourselves? You know what I mean? You may not be able to control that, but you can control how you feel about it, and still give yourself love, respect, and grace in every aspect of the things you do. Mm-hmm. And that's what I implore all artists to do, because I've had a lot of friends who've been extremely hard on themselves. And I'm like, you know, and the crazy thing about that, just to wrap it up, is that like a lot of the people who are hard on themselves are some of the nicest people that I know. Some of the people who really give back to the community, pour into so many people, but then they don't give themselves that same grace and authenticity and love. And it's like, my brother, like, you got to just be there for you sometimes. Mm-hmm. But this was a very powerful and amazing conversation. Thank you so much for your authenticity and time, and just for allowing us to come into the space and speak with you. I know that we might have something coming up in November that we want to, you know, tease a little bit, let the audience know what we got going on.
So
pause. Sorry. Pause it, and then we're going to do the outro, and that's it. Hey, so I heard we have something going on in November that we wanted to tease and let the people know about.
We definitely have something going on in November. You guys definitely got to stay tuned, and we're going to announce it really soon. But we're going to do a workshop on the inner compass to help you navigate your way through your career and your life in the way that you want to do it. Help you communicate in partnerships and understand what's going on inside of you. It's really going to be an amazing time. I'm so excited to be doing this with Sunny and to bring this to all of you.
And we look forward to having you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching this conversation with the one and only Ali AMAC McGuire. It's been a great conversation, and we hope to hear from you guys soon. Let us know what you guys think, and definitely check out the Inner Compass. It's going to be available real soon, and just keep an eye out.
Sick. Thanks, Sonny.
Perfect. Appreciate you.